You guys have been asking for it in the comments, and today we're going to do Buy This, Not That minivans. Let's get started. Before we dive in too deep, I want to let you know, as far as brand new vans, a lot of automakers have stopped making them. Minivans are dying as far as 2024, 25 models. There are a few makers that still make something, but there used to be in the late 90s, early 2000s, almost every automaker had a minivan. That's not true anymore. Now, if you're looking for something that can haul people and also haul a small boat or a trailer, you probably shouldn't look for a minivan. There's Suburbans, Tahoes, lots of vehicles out there that can do that for you, but they're not going to get great gas mileage at all, but they will be able to tow. But today's video is really going to focus on minivans. You're primarily hauling people, children or other family members or whatnot, or friends, whatever. So we're going to divide this into three categories based on price. We're going to start out with brand new minivans. The one to buy is the 2025 Toyota Sienna van. And yes, they still make these. They've been making them since the late 90s. They've been around for a long time. They're really, really good fan. And you're going to see throughout this entire video that we keep coming back to this one. It is really great. In 2025, you get the option of a hybrid 4-cylinder engine and nothing else. You don't get any other options. You only get a hybrid. That's it. But it does have 245 horsepower out of a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, which again is a hybrid. But it gets 36 miles per gallon in the city and 36 miles per gallon on the highway. For a minivan, that's amazing. I would definitely have no problem with it being a hybrid. Toyota has proven themselves with their hybrid systems to be pretty much trouble-free. You really don't hear a lot about them catching on fire or failing all the time or major catastrophes. They really are bulletproof all the way since the Prius to now. Anything hybrid that Toyota makes is really good. They also have a very nice interior, very nice styling on the outside. They look really great. And like I mentioned a little bit ago, they've been around since 1998. They've always been a good choice for a minivan, and they've always been the reliable choice as well. Very reliable. I've worked on many Sienna vans in the past, having 200,000, 300,000, and 400,000 miles on them, various different years, but they all were really bulletproof. You can expect these to be $40,000 to $50,000 range. Now we're going to move on to kind of the middle of the road. It's not the not buy, but it's not to buy. It's kind of one that would be a gray area. That's going to be the 2025 Honda Odyssey van. These don't have an option for hybrid. The only option they have is a 3.5 liter V6. It's 280 horsepower, which is quite a lot more than the Toyota, but that comes with the price. Only 19 miles per gallon in the city and 28 on the highway. It does have more power, it is faster, but it comes as a sacrifice to fuel economy. The styling on them is decent. It's not great, but it's not ugly or terrible either. It's nice, it's decent. But the Odysseys of the early years were known to having transmission troubles and lots of interior problems and sliding door problems. Power sliding doors is what I'm getting at. They have lots of issues, but they're okay. They're not the greatest, but they're not the worst either. But if you really like Honda and you just got to have a Honda, I could say you could buy one and it would be a good vehicle. You just might have a few small issues here and there. But they are a middle of the road, kind of a gray area vehicle. Now let's move on to one that you should not buy in 2025. That is the 2025 Kia Carnival. This one's $38,000 to $50,000. Again, all three of these are in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, so it really doesn't make any sense to say, well, this one's much cheaper. There really isn't one that's much cheaper. Really go with a Toyota, but I'm going to tell you about the Carnival now. Kia has never been known to be super reliable. You guys can watch my videos from the past of crazy customer stories or things that I've been through with Kias where I've literally had customers in my office with tears in their eyes because a Kia completely robbed their savings and destroyed their vacation, destroyed everything they have. Kias are not good. You may have one that's been a good one. You're lucky. Most have not. As far as being a minivan, the Kia Carnival looks more like a crossover than it does a minivan. Maybe you might like that, I don't know, but it really is kind of more of a crossover, but that's pretty much all they offer for the minivan option. It too has a 3.5 liter V6, but only 242 horsepower. Again, 19 city miles per gallon and 24 on the highway. It doesn't get any better miles per gallon than the Honda Odyssey did, but it has way less power. The styling, the interior, everything about these is going to be bottom of the barrel, cheap as cheap can be. That's how they try to keep the price point a little bit lower. You might think you're saving some money to get one of these, but you actually won't be by the time things break on, especially after the warranty period is over with. They can be very, very troublesome, so stay away from those. The next bracket we're going to get into, you're kind of saying, okay, Car Wizard, I don't have $50,000 to spend. That's completely out of my budget. That does me no good. Well, now we're going to do a category that is about 10 years old and about $10,000 to $20,000 range. This is kind of a middle of the road range. It's not the most expensive brand new, but it's not the cheapest. And let's go over three that you should buy, middle of the road, and shouldn't buy. The one to buy is 2011 to 2020 Toyota Sienna. Imagine that. I would bring that up again. They really are that good, guys. I've known people that have them and they swear by them. In these years, you can get a hybrid or the 3.5 V6. They still have that one around in these years. Either way, it's extremely reliable, easily 300,000 miles. You won't even have to think, I hope it makes it to 300,000 miles. It probably will. It's very highly likely that it will. These range from 20 to 25 on the highway. If you get the V6, you're going to get a little less miles per gallon, but it's average. It's acceptable. It's not super great like the brand new Sienna, but it's decent. These are a very large van. If you've seen them, they're very boxy, they're very big, they got lots of room, and they're very comfortable to drive. Very nice on the interior, very nice styling on the exterior. They're actually a very nice van in these years. They look great, they drive great, and they're reliable. You really can't beat them. So let's go ahead and move this to the middle of the road option in this category. That's going to be 2008 to 2020 Dodge Caravan. Now we've all seen these all over the road. They've made literally millions of Caravans all the way from the early 90s till now. They still make them. They've been around for decades. And they're tried and true for the most part, but they definitely had transmission issues. Most Chryslers do, it seems like, anymore, or they always have had. Transmissions issues, not really a bunch of engine issues, some sliding door, power sliding door issues, interior issues. They're not, like I said, are not the best in the world, but they're not the worst either. And they can be fairly reliable. They still can be a van. You could get 300,000 miles out of them, but they may have a transmission rebuild somewhere in between there, maybe a few other repairs, but it's not going to be one that makes you pull your hair out. It's just going to be like this section is, middle of the road. These have very common styling. They look nice, they drive nice. They don't look like, wow, it's so cool, but they don't look terrible either. These have various different engine options. They have a 3.3, a 3.6, a 3.8, and a 4.0. Multiple different V6 engines in these years. Either way, they're 20 to 25 miles per gallon on the highway. Some of them being the larger engines are going to get less miles per gallon, of course. And like I mentioned, there's been millions of them made. The parts are cheap, they're easy to come by if anything fails. They're very easy to keep on the road with some of the small shortcomings they do have. Now let's move on to the next. Is going to be $10,000 to $20,000 range. Do not buy. The one not to buy is 2005 to 2014 Kia Sedona. Don't buy one of these. They're not good. Everyone I've ever worked on in the shop, it comes in, needs this or that fixed on it, and it's usually the customer says, I didn't pay that much for the van, park it outside. They're not worth a whole lot, and when it's time to fix something, which is usually pretty common on these, a lot of things fail, it ends up being not worth it and people regret buying them. These are going to be some of the least reliable minivans that you can buy. So keep that in mind. You're saying, Car Wizard, I need something reliable, I need something blah, blah, blah. Kia Sedona is not. It is the opposite of reliable. These have a 2.7, 3.5, or 3.8 V6. Like I mentioned, I've had lots of horror stories in the shop. I haven't actually got to fix a lot of them because most people have that same statement, I didn't pay that much for the van, $2 or $3 grand, You're talking $1,500, $2,000 to fix it, no thanks. These have terrible looks. They look extremely cheap. They feel extremely cheap. They don't drive all that great. And there's actually called a TUV rating out there that rates the reliability of vehicles. And their rating on the Kia Sedona of this year range shows 20 to 25% failure rate on all of them. Fortunately, many of these are in the salvage yards by now. Just that same scenario, it's not worth fixing. I didn't pay that much for the van. And they end up in the salvage yard. There's still some out there, and if you're thinking of getting a cheap van, don't go for those year-range Kia Sedona. So now we're going to move to the final segment. You say, okay, Car Wizard, I don't have the $10,000 to $20,000. Do you have anything that's cheaper than that? And yes, we do. There's going to be 20 years old or older, but there is some to mention here. The ones to buy is 2004 to 2010. You guessed it, Toyota Sienna. Imagine that. These have a 3.3 or a 3.5 V6 ranging about 230 to 250 horsepower. They're still very reliable, but at this age, you definitely want to get a pre-purchase inspection. I recommend those for any vehicle you buy, but as you're getting into the older years, you definitely want to get a pre-purchase inspection before putting down the money. These get 17 in the city, 24 on the highway, which is acceptable. It's decent gas mileage. The styling by now looks pretty dated, but again, you're not looking for that brand new $50,000 van. You're looking for something a little cheaper. It's going to be a little older, but they still look decent. They look good. They just look a little dated. And for the value, they are a great value for the price. Very reliable van. It'll do what you need it to do without breaking the bank. Now let's move on to the middle of the road in the 20-year-old van segment. That is a 2004 to 2007 Ford Freestar. Bet you guys didn't see that one coming, huh? We haven't really even seen many of those on the road anymore, but they're still out there. I checked Facebook Marketplace. There's several for sale. These had a 3.9 or 4.2 V6. Some of them can have transmission troubles. Again, it's not catastrophic across the whole range, and it's something you wish you never bought, but there are some that did have some transmission troubles. They look decent, they drive good, they don't look like a fancy brand new van, but they look decent. I've worked on many of them that are 250, 300,000 miles, and they're still on the road. Again, there's a few things here or there, you know, the rear AC quit working or the power window isn't working, but they're still running, they're still driving, and still reliable. They're fairly easy to work on, parts are cheap, plentiful. The parts used on those engines are used across many different models, so there's lots of availability for parts. These are 16 in the city, 22 on the highway. It's a big engine, 4.2 or 3.9, so it uses quite a bit more fuel. They're not the best, but they're not the worst either. But they're definitely something you could rely on. I've worked on them. They're decent vans. And with any of these in the 20-year-old range I'm mentioning, if it's got 400,000 miles on it, you probably shouldn't buy it, no matter how reliable they are, because any vehicle on earth has a lifespan, and that is towards the end of the lifespan. So try to get one in the 150 to 250,000 mile range. Now on to the definitely do not buy in this 20-year-old cheaper segment, 2004 to 2009 Nissan Quest. I know some of you are saying, oh yeah, I already know that, those were junk. I knew someone that had one that was horrible, it was terrible. They really were terrible. They look kind of cool. I always liked the way that they looked. It's very cool, very neat looking. But that's as far as it goes. They are very terribly unreliable. They had lots of transmission failures. Even when they were only 5 or 10 years old, they had transmissions failing left and right. Most are destroyed by now or in the salvage yard. They're not worth a whole lot. And same scenario as the other ones I've mentioned in this video. There you get to a point where it costs more than the car is worth or the van is worth, and it ends up being where it just goes to the salvage yard. And keep in mind, these are the Nissan Altima of minivans. They are treated very bad. They are not serviced good at all. And the one you're looking at, you're seeing one for sale, it's really cheap, you can be guaranteed it's been treated really badly. They do have the 3.5 Nissan V6, which the engine is fairly reliable, just the rest of the van isn't. 16 miles per gallon in the city, 22 on the highway. Not very good, but not terrible either. But basically, just don't do it. You're going to be very unhappy and very unsatisfied if you purchase one of these, no matter how many miles are on it. It's probably going to leave you stranded at some point. Just don't even, you see one on your screen right now, swipe, click on something else, go look at a different van. Don't do it. And before we wrap up the video, I'll do a bonus for you guys. No matter how much money, what year, what your budget is, never, ever buy a Mercedes Metris van. They are garbage of any year, any price range. Absolute hot garbage. Everything is bad about them. The electronics, the engine, the transmission, they have so many problems. I really don't have anything good to say about them. The ones I have worked on in the shop were a disaster and the customers sold them as soon as they could. Don't be fooled by the Mercedes emblem and thinking you're getting a good solid German quality. They do make wonderful cars, but that particular model of van is absolutely horrible. And for the love of God, please do not buy a Mercedes Metris van. Don't do it. Now, if you're looking to haul more people around, but all the vans I just listed, it just doesn't strike your fancy, there are other options of crossover style vehicles out there, like the Ford Flex. There was a Ford Freestyle and various different other vehicles that are similar to that styling. There's a lot of options out there you might want to check out, and maybe in the future we'll do a crossover Buy This Not That. Hopefully it helps you guys out with the price range you're looking at. If you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop to fix these types of vans, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. Everything that we use in the shop is listed for sale there. If you purchase anything, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's many more cool videos to come. Now I'm going to get warmed by the fire. It is freezing in Kansas today. Thanks for watching, guys.